Robert Wise was an American film editor, producer, and director. 3 months before he turned 19, his parents could not afford to keep him in college. For a young man who dreamed of being a journalist, it was a huge disappointment. He had to go to Los Angeles to find himself a job. This diversion in his life exposed him to the world of film, and in time, he became a world-renowned director in the film industry. He started out in RKO, and after years of training in sound and editing departments, he was promoted to a full-fledged film editor. Robert Wise has worked with many production companies, and among them are a few widely known companies such as the Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, Paramount, and RKO. He also started up Espion Productions in 1951 with Mark Robson, his former editorial assistant, and Theron Worth. Unfortunately, the company closed down after 2 productions. In the earlier years of his career, Robert Wise met Orson Welles between shots at the Path Studios. During the production of Citizen Kane, Orson Welles was unhappy with the unimaginative old-time editor assigned to him by the studio, so he decided to put Robert Wise in charge of editing. Robert Wise edited the fast table sequence and was able to show the gradual disintegration of the marriage through a few short, time-spanning scenes between Kane and his first wife. Robert Wise was a big fan of the use of deep focus photography. He was influenced by Orson Welles' use of deep focuses in Citizen Kane, which was influenced by Jean Renoir's The Rules of the Game in 1939, from the French poetic realism. Here are some examples of deep focus photography in Robert Wise films.
It's the first thing you teach, you know.
I sure could use that technique from time to time.
Sit still, everyone, and behave.
Robert Wise transitioned from being an editor to becoming a director. His big break came in 1943, one day when he was editing The Curse of the Cat People. He received a call from the executive requesting that he take over the direction the following Monday. Gunther von Fritsch was a good director, but he was working too slowly. Wise was delighted, but he hesitated because he felt uncomfortable about being on set with Gunther, knowing that he was going to take over his job. In the end, Wise accepted the offer, and The Curse of the Cat People was the first film that he ever directed. Well, sort of. During an interview, Robert Wise said, "Most people think that because you've been an editor, you don't shoot too much because you know exactly what you're going to need. In my case, I found that because I'd been an editor, I know how valuable it is to have extra coverage, so I actually tend to shoot more film. There is almost no limit to what you can do to film in the cutting room." Robert Wise is a man who doesn't like to repeat himself in his life or his movies. The range of his work is broad and can't really be categorized to any genre in particular. Once, when he was asked to do a remake, his response was, "I don't want to be first to be second." He has worked on genres such as film noir, drama, horror, musical, even Western. Of course, in trying out so many different genres, there is sure to be one he doesn't favor, and in this case, that would be Western. I found out I really didn't enjoy making them. They're big and cumbersome, you're always at the mercy of the weather, and horses don't take direction very well. Also, by that time, I felt that the Western genre seemed overdone. One thing about Robert Wise is that he doesn't have a specific style in his films, and that's due to the fact that he's tried out almost every genre there is to try, and he, quote, approaches each genre with a cinematic style that he thinks is appropriate and right for that genre. Therefore, he doesn't really conform to the conventions of a genre. A few of Robert Wise's more well-known films are noirs, such as The Setup. In The Setup, Robert Wise uses a lot of deep focuses, which I mentioned earlier was influenced by Orson Welles. There are also plenty of high contrasted images, and he uses a lot of chiaroscuro lighting. On the other hand, contrary to the conventions of film noir, there are rarely any canted, high, or low angle shots in The Setup. Also, instead of the often use of close-ups moving out to reveal action, Robert Wise tends to start with a wider shot moving into a close-up to capture emotions. Odds Against Tomorrow is another film noir directed by Robert Wise. Similar to the previous example, this film has plenty of deep focuses. It also has a number of scenes starting with a wider shot before moving into a close-up, also to capture emotion.
You hear that wind? Man, I'm going to get myself grounded out of the Air Force. That's what I'm going to do.
There are close to no canted shots, and a small difference this film has to the setup is that it contains more low-contrasted images. Robert Wise has also directed a couple of musicals that have received a lot of recognition. The Sound of Music, for example, won 5 Academy Awards including Best Picture. It is a straight musical, and it accentuates mostly the positive with upbeat songs like Do Re Mi.
Ray, a drop of golden sun. Me, a name I call myself. Far, a long, long way to run.
And My Favorite Things.
Dots on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright colored kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things.
Robert Wise also used crane or high-angled shots for some of the musical numbers to show off the choreography. In majority of musicals, most songs are usually associated with romance, but The Sound of Music is one exception. West Side Story, on the other hand, is based on Romeo and Juliet, and therefore, songs associated with romance.
Say it loud and there's music playing. Say it soft and it's almost like praying. Only you're the only thing I see forever. In my eyes, in my words, and in everything I do. Nothing else but you, ever.
West Side Story was the first musical that Robert Wise directed, with creative contribution from Jerome Robbins. It also follows the conventions of a musical. There are a number of crane or high-angled shots for the same reason as before.
Jets! Boys to my right, girls to my left.
The scenes are also brightly lit, even with some of them being nighttime exteriors. One thing I've noticed is that Robert Wise tends to use the same location for the beginning and the ending scene for his films. Here's the setup. Here's the beginning scene of The Sound of Music. And here's the end. Odds Against Tomorrow. The Haunting.
Floors are firm and doors are sensibly shut. Silence lies steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House. And we who walk here walk alone.
West Side Story. I feel like it brings the audience back to where they started from in the beginning, and it is a nice closure for the film. In his life, Robert Wise has accomplished a great deal. He has received dozens of tributes from international film festivals and universities worldwide, given seminars for film students at more than 20 universities and colleges, and mentored hundreds of filmmakers. He has also been the president of the Directors Guild of America and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences from 1985 to 1988, as well as the chairman of the American Film Institute Center for Advanced Film Studies. He has even received the National Medal of the Arts from the President of the United States and the Grand Decoration of Honor for services to the Republic of Austria and Knight in the Order of Leopold from the King of Belgium. I think that we can learn a great deal from Robert Wise. He set aside his dreams of being a journalist to support himself, and by doing so, he has contributed majorly to the film industry. Also, we can learn to step out of our comfort zone and explore the world of different styles and genres. Maybe even stop following the conventions so that your films will have a more distinct style. You'll never know if you never try. Who knows? Someday you might just be the next Robert Wise. Just kidding.